Space, the final frontier. This is the Observer's Notebook, the official podcast of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. Its mission to explore the solar system, to seek out new observations and data, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. And now the host of the Observer's Notebook, Tim Robertson.
Hello and welcome to episode 191 of the Observer's Notebook, the official podcast of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. I'm Tim Robertson, the host of the podcast and also the coordinator of the training program. Thanks for downloading and listening to the podcast. The Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers collects and analyzes observations of various solar system bodies and their associated phenomenon, and publishes detailed reports concerning these bodies in its quarterly publication, the Journal of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. This podcast depends upon donations from you, our listeners, to keep it alive. If you enjoy what you hear in the podcast, you can donate to it via Patreon. You can start by giving as little as $1 a month. If you feel even more generous, for $5, you receive early access to the podcast before it goes public. For a monthly donation of $10, you receive a copy of the Novice Observer's Handbook. And for $35 a month, you receive producer credits on the podcast. You can find out more by going to www.patreon.com/observersnotebook. If you'd like to join the ALPO, membership begins at only $22 a year. You can find out more at www.alpo-astronomy.org. And we're also on Facebook. Just search for ALPO Astronomy. And this podcast also has a Facebook page as well. Just search for Observer's Notebook. And if you enjoy what you hear in the podcast, please subscribe. That way you'll never miss another episode. And now we're talking to Bob Lunsford about the meteor showers of this summer. Enjoy. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody back to this edition of the Observer's Notebook podcast. And we're going to talk meteor showers, and that means we're talking to Bob Lunsford. How you doing, Bob?
Hey, not bad, not bad.
Good.
Before we get going on the highlights for the summer, I'd like to discuss our previous meteor shower, which was focused on the 8 Aquariids. Now, this year, we expected Jupiter to bump some extra meteors our way. Mm-hmm. But it didn't happen.
Oh.
So we don't know why, but I'm sure we'll go back to the drawing board and figure out what happened and try to get a little better prediction next time around. Anyway, we were expecting a zenith hourly rate of the Aquariids of 80, which is what it produced during the last outburst, which occurred in 2013. Well, I looked high and low, and the best I could find was 48, which is just a little more than half of what we expected. Oh, and believe me, that's not someone seeing 48 an hour.
Right.
That's just under perfect conditions. For this particular shower, the actual visual rate was probably 1/3 of that. Okay. So we're talking of 16 meters an hour at best.
Oh my.
Now, I traveled to the dark sky on 2 nights. Unfortunately, we had rain, believe it or not, in Southern California on May 5th. But I was out on the 4th and the 6th, and my best hourly rate was 4, believe it or not. Unbelievable. Made the trip to dark skies, and they just didn't show up.
And there's no real rhyme or reason for that either.
No. There were others that had better rates than me. Of course, my eyes aren't as young as they used to be. But, just go back a few months, and I was seeing 60 Geminis an hour, no problem. So I think our particular longitude just wasn't favorable this time around.
Okay.
So, folks.
But how about reports from other areas that you've received?
It was better than me, but nowhere near what we expected.
Okay.
So it looks like folks. I had a couple from South Africa that had pretty good. One guy actually made observations 8 nights in a row.
Wow.
And he probably saw about 250 meteors, but the hourly rates, he had little bursts here and there, and even some after the expected maximum, but nothing spectacular like we expected. So,
okay.
Anyway, we'll try again for that shower.
Okay.
But
Sounds good.
the official meteor season starts in July, so we're all looking forward to that. Um, what I mean by meteor season is during the winter months, the sporadic rates are almost down to 5 an hour. So it's kind of like watching grass grow. But it's really funny. Come right around July 15th. The first half of July is pretty much like the winter time.
Wow.
Not a whole lot of activity. But right around July 15th, it's like someone turns the faucet on full blast. Yeah, meteors kick up in the northern hemisphere, and it's gung-ho from then on.
Great.
Yeah, so
you don't have to deal with the cold weather in the winter.
no, and you know what? It's like that at least for random meteors in the southern hemisphere. Their best season is from January 15th to July 15th.
Okay.
That's when they're normal rates. Of course, there's a couple of showers that are outside that. But for your average night, their meteor season is the first half of the year, and ours is in the second half.
Okay.
So the first shower we can expect to see in July are the Alpha Capricornids. Now, this shower produces slow meteors from the western part of Capricorn near the star. Actually, it's a naked eye double star called Alpha Capricorni. This particular radiant is best seen right around midnight this time of year. And we're expecting a maximum on July 31st.
Okay.
Now, last year, I have my meteor camera set up, and on the night of July 25/26, I recorded 7 fireballs from this shower.
Wow.
That's unreal. I normally get 1 fireball a week, maybe.
Huh.
I have 6 cameras. They're scanning the skies at night, and still I get an average of 1 fireball a week. 7 on one night. It's just incredible.
That's wild.
And they all went right back to Alpha Capricornus.
Okay.
Now, if that occurs this year, it's going to be a night earlier due to leap year.
Okay.
So we need to look on the night of July 24th/25th. The only problem with that is we have a last quarter moon on July 27th. So we're dealing with a bright gibbous moon. So, I really can't advise people to sit out under a bright gibbous moon and expect to see a bunch of fireballs. You're probably going to be wasting your time. But if you do have a camera set up or a video set up, by all means, dust it off and set it up. Because it may happen again and it may not. The Alpha Capricorns have always been known for a large percentage of fireballs, but not so much the hourly rate, which usually peaks on about 5.
Okay, so even with a fairly bright moon, you wouldn't recommend to see the fireballs.
Well, at that early date, the rate is only going to be a couple an hour.
Okay.
So. If you want to be out at 1 o'clock and try. Now, these ones that I recorded were all during the night because the radiate actually rises about 9 o'clock. So anytime the radiant's above the horizon, you have a chance to see a meteor.
Okay.
But it's highest in the sky at once. So, if you have transparent skies, sure, give it a try. You might see meteors they're fainter than fireball range, but normally when the moon it looks like it's going to be about 65% illuminated. That's just a killer.
Yeah,
and it's going to be it's going to be in the same general part of the sky as the radiant too. So that certainly doesn't help.
Okay.
But anyway, keep an eye out for fireballs during the first, I say 2/3 of July and maybe the second 2 weeks of August. And those most likely are from the Alpha Capricornids.
Okay.
Simultaneously with the Alpha Capricornids is a stronger shower known as the Southern Delta Aquariids. Now, this year, this may be the best shower seen from the Southern Hemisphere because its radiant, being in Southern Aquarius, passes directly overhead for folks south of the equator. So this one peaks only a day later than the Alpha Capricornid, which will be on July 30th. So normal visual rates for the shower from the northern hemisphere are around 10, and south of the equator maybe 15 to 20. So this year, the moon will be 4 days past last quarter, so it'll be a maybe a 25% crescent.
Much better.
So it'll be way over in the east, probably in the constellation Taurus, if I remember. So it'll be out of the way. So just face toward the south. During the last week of July, I would suggest, and you have a good chance of seeing some South Delta Aquariids. Now, these meteors on average are a lot dimmer than the Alpha Capricornids, but they're also a lot faster. And the radiants are probably only about 20 degrees apart. So same basics part of the sky, but they're easy to tell apart.
Okay.
So you have your slow Capricornids and your slightly faster Aquariids.
Okay.
Now, the Aquariids also bump into the Perseids, which is our next shower. Even though they peak on the 31st, they're going to be active for another 2 weeks. So while folks are out trying to see Perseid meteors, the South Delta Aquariids will also be around.
So how the Perseids look this year?
Now for the big show. Yeah, the Perseids have the best opportunity for a strong shower.
Good.
In 2024.
It's about time.
Well, that's only due because the moon is full for the Geminids this year.
Okay.
If you actually compare the two showers, the Z8 shower was 135 last year for the Geminids and 70 for the Perseids.
Oh, my.
So the Geminids were almost twice as strong as the Perseids. But the Perseids appear in the middle of summertime versus the beginning of winter.
Right.
So conditions are a lot nicer. And, still both of the showers are best seen in the morning hours. But it's a lot nicer in August than it is in December.
True.
The Perseids are active right around July 15th. But at that time, we're only intersecting the fringe of these meteors. So we're only seeing one or two a night. And with each passing night, the rates will get slightly stronger. And let's see, we have a full moon during that time on the 21st in the last quarter. And once the last quarter moon passes, the Perseids ought to be kicking into high gear. By the 1st of August, you can probably expect 5 an hour. And by the 5th, I would say, when there's a new moon, maybe 10 an hour.
Oh, okay.
And we expect a peak this year on the night of August 11/12.
Oh, Saturday night. Perfect.
Let's see. My calendar, unless I looked wrong, I thought I had a Sunday night, Monday morning.
You're right. Sunday. Yeah. I'm okay.
That's okay. Yeah. But still, this is a shower I would observe at least 3 days in a row with that Monday morning being right in the middle. So I would go out Saturday night and Sunday night and even Monday. And the reason I say Monday is lately there's been a bump in rates a day and a half after the expected maximum. In 2022, it was over 100 an hour, which was stronger than the predicted maximum. So it was much less last year. So we don't know exactly what to expect. But, if you're clouded out on the night of maximum, which is the 11/12th, by all means, if it's clear the next night, give it a shot.
Okay.
Now, the Perseids can be seen all night long, but at sunset, the radiant line is very low in the north. So a great majority of the meteors are being blocked by the northern horizon. So the only ones to see at that time are these big, long streaks of light heading toward the south and the west and the east. Now, as the night progresses, radiant will rise higher in the northeast, and therefore the meteors will be shorter, and you'll start to see some of them actually shooting downward. We have a first quarter moon on that particular night, so it will set probably around 1 a.m. for most of us. That's daylight savings time.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be tough watching during the evening hours. But once that moon sets, things will get dark and the activity should kick into high gear. Now, last year, I think my best rate was around 30 to 35, if I recall correctly.
That's pretty good.
And we had a slender crescent moon in the sky. So once the moon sets this year, it'll be totally dark, and we have a good opportunity to see some good meteors. And these are very entertaining meteors. They come in all kinds of colors, and the brighter ones tend to leave what we call trains, and that's kind of a smoke trail after the meteors have disappeared. And if you get meteors that approach the brightness of, let's say, the first quarter moon, which are very rare, about -8, these trains have the capacity to last 30 seconds or more.
Oh, wow.
So it's really, and what's cool about that is you can see them twist and turn by the winds of the upper atmosphere. So it kind of looks like a snake uncoiling up there.
That's wild, because meteors are not that large in these showers.
No, definitely not. So when you're talking about something as bright as -8, you're talking about a pretty good chunk of rock. So that's definitely, and it's also a good time to catch up on your fireballs too. They say during a normal stretch you have to sit outside for 20 hours before you'll see one brighter than the planet Venus.
Oh, geez.
So that's not too exciting. But that rate increases. I can't tell you exactly how well, but I've always seen at least a few fireballs during the Perseid shower, especially right near maximum. So and these tend to be orange colored, sometimes yellow, and are quite interesting to watch them follow. I always set a small set of binoculars near my chair, and if we have a bright trail like that, I'll zoom in on it with the binoculars and watch it coil like I mentioned.
Huh. That's a good tip. I'll have to do that.
Yeah. I received some reports from the Perseids that every meteor they see they claim is a Perseid shower, and that's just not possible because there are a lot of random meteors. Plus, like I said, the South Delta Aquariids are still going, and even a few random Alpha Capricornids. So not all meteors that you see on August 12th will be Perseids.
Okay.
So that's something to remember. And if you're out and you're serious, we'd sure like to hear about what you saw. We ask that you try to observe for 1 full hour and count the number of Perseids versus non-Perseids you see. And what else you can do is estimate the faintest star you can see. That gives us the sky conditions, because if you're observing in the faintest star you can see is only a +5, well, you're going to see a lot less meteors than someone who's up there in the mountains seeing, with a living magnitude of +6.5 or even 7.
Right.
Because the majority of the meteors, no matter what shower it is, are faint. So if you can see fainter stars, you're going to see a lot more meteors.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, and I've got your email address in the show notes so people can send their observations directly to you.
That would be great. And after the Perseids, unfortunately, the Orionids, the Leonids, and the Geminids all are very close to full moons.
Oh,
So it
no.
is just not the year for those showers. So we're going to have to pay attention to the minor showers of that time, like the
Okay.
Taurids, and even the Ursids have a last quarter moon. So that's going to kill them. So the next exciting one will be the Quadrantid, which peak on January 3rd, 2025, without moon at all. So we'll have to
Okay.
get together for that one.
We will definitely get together for that one, if not before. Great.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. Well, Bob, thanks for coming on the podcast today.
My pleasure, and we will talk to you again.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Observer's Notebook Podcast. Again, I want to thank Bob Lunsford coming on and talking to us about meteor showers. Get out there during the summer and enjoy the spectacle of a meteor shower. You won't regret it. We upload new episodes of the Observer's Notebook on the 1st and 15th of every month. You can subscribe to us on iTunes. If you do, please give us a rating and a review. I'd really appreciate it. You can also listen on Apple Radio, iHeartRadio, Soundcloud, Spreaker, Google Play, Stitcher, Amazon Echo, Spotify, and the podcast is also available on the ALPO YouTube channel. You can help support the podcast by donating to it via Patreon, where you can give up to $35 a month, where you'll receive 1 year's membership to the ALPO and producer credits on the podcast. And with that, I'd like to thank our two producers of this podcast, Steve Siedentop and Michael Moyer, for their continued generous support. The link for Patreon, as well as the link for the ALPO, is in the show notes. If you'd like to get a hold of me, my email address is commentman@commentman.net or on Twitter at @ObserversNBPod. And until next time, my hope is that you always have clear and steady skies. Thanks for listening.